A video or two ago, I spoke about how I hate the Transkei, and truly I don't. I just hate that little piece of land that is for all intents and purposes part of the Eastern Cape but is stuck bang in the middle of KZN. Honestly, it is as frustrating as Lesotho not being a South African province, but that's an issue for another day.
Who the starts a conversation like that? I just sat down.
So I went on a huge side quest to learn why this thing exists, and I made a video on the creation of the homeland in South Africa. And today I decided to make a video on the history of the Transkei from its foundation in 1959 to its reintegration into South Africa in 1994. Here's the history of the Transkei. Okay, I know I said that's when it was formed in 1959, but we have to go back, really back. I'm not sure about the dates, but let's just understand that when the Nguni people settled South Africa, and I'm not a believer in the Nguni migration theory, when they settled in South Africa, the Xhosa tribes were parts of the Nguni settlement of Southern Africa. And when they inevitably split from the other Nguni tribes, such as the Zulu and the Venda, the peoples we recognize as the Xhosa today settled much more south than the rest, settling along the Great Fish and the Great Gay Rivers, respectively. And then Jan van Riebeeck landed in the Cape and all my problems started. This ushered in the Dutch and later English colonization of South Africa. The first people they met were the Khoi and then the San. Khoisan is not a thing. And later, once they expanded to the east, they met the Xhosa. Because they wanted to expand, a lot of stuff happened. I will not get into it. The Dutch migration into internal South Africa, the English expansion, the search for gold and all that stuff. But this resulted in the Great Frontier Wars, which pushed the Xhosa people east of their lands until they basically ended or began Great Gay River area, which is the White and Black Gay Rivers. And so the Transkei is the region that is beyond the Gay River area, which towards east of the Gay River area, whilst the Ciskei is the land around the Gay Rivers. It's a completely different homeland. So we're at the height of the apartheid government, and the government needs to keep up the blacks as far away from their precious white lands. So they decided to create a bunch of states for the black tribal groups known as the homelands or the Bantustans. I made a whole video on that, so check it out, please. In 1959, Prime Minister Hendrik Verwoerd, I hate this guy.
I have just announced in Parliament details of the granting of self-government to the Transkei. The Transkei is the first Bantu homeland which has approached the government of the Republic to aid it by means of this great step on the road to independence.
Announced the official creation of the first of the states, the Transkei, located in 3 geographical areas, one located south of the Lesotho border, second located east of the Eastern Cape, and the third surrounded by the Drakensberg Mountains, south of in southern KZN. So that is the landmass. By the way, I'm using current South African provinces and current South African geographical areas as opposed to the land to the map of South Africa at the time, which had 4 provinces, which was the Cape, the Orange Free State, the Transvaal, and Natal. It just makes more sense for currently. If you look at the map of South Africa today, you understand it better. Well, the Transkei was made up of a bunch of Xhosa tribal groups that had amalgamated into the Transkei or territorial authority known as Ibhunga. Okay, let me introduce our 2 main characters. In the right corner, a super supporter of apartheid and separate development. He was the chief of the Amahara tribe, a brutal fascist dictator with the ire of his people, Chief Kaiser Matanzi Ma. And in the left corner, he's an anti-apartheid activist who was against the homeland system, a supporter of integration and the united black state. He's the paramount chief of the Tembu, King Sabata Dalindyebo. Quick side note, the current king of the Tembu, Gwelekhaya Dalindyebo, was the perfect example of how far the apple can fall from the tree, because anyone who will read up on both of them will never assume they're father and son. Like, there is no way Sabata Dalindyebo gave better this dude. Okay, so the apartheid government had created the Transkei homeland and grew up the constitution in Pretoria. And I need people to think about this for a second. Isn't it weird that an independent state had its constitution drawn up in the capital of another completely independent state? The constitution established an assembly to rule over the Transkei, made up of 60 chiefs from the regional authorities and 4 paramount chiefs. Chief Dalindyebo and Kaiser Matanzima being 2 of the 4. Kaiser had not been a paramount chief prior to this, but in the 50s, since he was apartheid's favorite soldier, they had sort of manipulated stuff so that he could be elevated to paramount chief of the Western Temple or something like that. And this was just to bypass the veto held by Paramount Chief Dalindyebo at the time. So every single decision by the Ipunga had to go past Chief Dalindyebo. So, yeah. This was just to sidestep him. Through the constitution, the assembly would be responsible for justice, finance, education, agriculture, and public works. Most of those elected were supporters of Dalindyebo and Westbondoland Chief Victor Poto, but Kaiser held sway with Chief in the legislature and was thus elected to Chief Minister of Transkei. Interestingly, when election had been held prior to the status of self-government being granted, Matanzima's Transkei National Independent Party had been defeated by Knowledge Guzana's Democratic Party, which supported Chief Dalindyebo, but Matanzima had the chief's backing and he was the chief minister. Soon, Matanzima led a violent repression of the Democratic Party, detaining and banning its leaders to such an extent that by the second elections in 1973, the TNIP won a majority in both seats and votes. Yay to dictatorships. Matanzima's regime was heavily opposed by black progressive forces. The Democratic Party had elected Hector Ngcuka as a stalwart of the black consciousness movement, and those guys really hated the homeland system. Like Steve Biko wrote like 10 letters on the thing saying that the homeland system was stupid. Paul Kodam doing off the PAC. I love saying Paul. They had long attempted to assassinate Matanzima in the 60s and only succeeded in eliminating one of his chief advisors in 1962. They also managed to kill Tembu Chief Gwebi Dalamabuza and Chief Marquez Atalasile in the same year. Interestingly, Polko had just been founded a year earlier after Sharpeville. Like, they were already completing assassinations a year after they were founded. Crazy. Matanzima heavily supported the apartheid government and had dreams of a united, singular Xhosa state that was under him. He wanted an independent Xhosa state. This meant in full expansion across the Eastern Cape, Xhosa territory, and the amalgamation of with the Ciskei, the other Xhosa homeland. In 1976, the Transkei became the first homeland to gain independence, and Matanzima removed it.
Chief Matanzima, I presume that you can tell us quite a lot about the possibilities of the Transkei. Say, for instance, in the event of total independence, would you say that the Transkei has the manpower and the talent to run its own affairs?
The Bantu people of the Republic of South Africa are the most development of all the Bantu states in the continent of Africa. And there is no doubt that there is plenty of manpower for self-determination.
The first thing he did was oppose the independence of the Ciskei, which he did not succeed in doing. He also elevated himself to the role of Prime Minister, making him equitable to the current Prime Minister at the time, I don't know who it was, and appointing his brother George Matanzima to the role of the Minister of Justice. Now George Wilkes immediately began work detaining the legendary great John Kani and Winston John after they performed the play. Like, seriously, your first thing when you just got the job and you decide, let me imprison the most famous black South African actor and playwright at the time. He is the greatest South African playwright of all time, and you're like, let me imprison him just for the love of the game. He was forced to resist them after mass demonstrations in New York against their detainment, but this would just be the introduction to the Matanzima's brutal regime.
On his bones, he was right. Meet you up the boss. They knocked his ass off. John at the food. till they walk his ass down.
Kaiser kept petitioning the apartheid government for more land, namely Griqualand East and the Ciskei. If you don't know what Griqualand is, yeah, it's a lot of messy South African history that I need to cover on this channel. And this is gay, and this led to democratic scuffle with the apartheid government, which led to him threatening to violate the non-aggression pacts, and that diplomatic channels were broken and stuff like that. But he could not follow through with these threats because towards the later end of the time, he needed a bailout. He had spent all the Transkei money, and the apartheid government gave him 73 million rands to shut him up for a few years. Now, this 73 million rand is in addition to the 113 million rands I think he was receiving a year. So, I don't know, how the fuck do you mess up 130 million rands in the 1970s? Like, did billions even exist at the time? In 1979, Tembo King Dalindyebo established the DPP, the Progressive Democratic Party, to oppose Matanzima, but this is a dictatorship where this is not an equality. So Matanzima immediately used his power to create fake charges and prosecute Dalindyebo, detaining him and sending him into exile. King Dalindyebo would go to Zambia and establish links with the ANC, dying in 1986, and only being returned late in April that same year by his son, Boyelekhaya Dalindyebo, which is probably the only good thing he's ever done in his life. Matanzima immediately seized the body and forced the great Tembo chief to be buried in a ditch. In 1989, Boyelekhaya would return and bury his father with more respect with the help of General Bantu Holomisa. The apartheid government began plans to combine the Ciskei and Transkei in 1985 under Matanzima. This included the assassination of then Ciskei President Lennox Sebe, but this failed after General Bantu Holomisa became aware of the plot. Really interesting that the apartheid government wanted to support one of its greatest soldiers in this time. This would begin the demise of Matanzima. He began losing support in the mid-1980s, resulting in his resignation in 1986, but stayed on as the paramount chief of Western Timberland and was replaced by Pondoland chief Ngangelizwe Ndamase as president, but eventually they were both overthrown due to corruption in various government departments. George Matanzima fled the country but was caught and answered for his crimes as well. Stella Sigcawu, a female, replaced him as prime minister, but General Bantu Holomisa immediately mounted a bloodless coup against her in January 1988 and served as the chairperson of the military council until reintegration into South Africa in 1994. Stella Sigcawu was a female president, which is interesting. Like, I find it amazing that they spent like 20-30 years under the Matanzima's brutal dictatorship, but the moment they saw a female president, they were like, nah, I can handle a violent dictatorship. I cannot handle a woman in power. Holomisa is such a great person, by the way. This is a great guy. This is the same guy who has that one fishing video.
It says,
teach a man how to fish.
Man a fish and you feed him for a day. You teach him to fish. You give him
Holomisa immediately unbanned anti-apartheid organizations in the Transkei such as the UDF, BOGO and ANC, which was not opposed by the then South African president F.W. de Klerk. In 1990, a group of white and black soldiers, who are very stupid by the way, 6 in total, attempted to mount a coup but failed. 18 people died in the attempt, including the coup leader, Colonel Craig Dooley. Why is a white person attempting to mount a coup in a black state? I really should look into that. Holomisa reintegrated the Transkei into South Africa in 1994 after consultation with the Transkei people, who most of them just wanted to be part of South Africa. Thank you, bye.